2017, and we're at the Monte Casino Ballroom in Johannesburg, South Africa. And we've heard from the speakers already this morning just how tough 2016 was. And I love Graham's hashtag of 2016 must fall. And if you listen to the experts such as Graham and Peter and Michael and the other futurists at USB and the people who speak on change, you'll hear that 2017 might not be that much better or possibly even worse. And if you're in sales, that's definitely true. Because it's harder right now to make a face-to-face appointment with a senior decision maker than at any point in history. Buyers have more choice of which supplier they use for anything that they purchase than ever before. And your competitors are desperate to take your best accounts off you. So what are you and your sales team going to do in 2017 to make sure it's a better year than 2016? You see, for me, sales has evolved, and I think as salespeople we have to evolve with it, otherwise we perish. So the way people buy has changed, sales has changed through the ages. So if we look at very early on in sales, the 1960s, 1970s were the era of the old school salesperson. The kind of kitchen cookware salesman door to door in the US. And the idea behind those guys was, if you just have more closes than the people you meet have objections, you're going to win. So they practiced all these different closes. There's even a book I read a year or so ago, which the last chapter was the 37 essential closes you need to know to close more business. I thought, 37? I used one. If you need 37 ways to try and close somebody that you have to go through in sequence, there surely has to be something wrong with your sales process so far. But that was the 60s and 70s. Then we moved into the era of product. So which was we try and position our product as better than competitors. So people used to produce fact sheets and data sheets on the features, advantages, and benefits of their product over someone else's, and they train their sales force on what the features, advantages, and benefits are to help them try and sell to customers. So the era of the product was here. Then we had the era of the internet, starting off with websites, moving into social selling, and selling started to fall out of favor, and people said, oh, you know, we don't need to sell anymore, or at least selling without selling. Quite how you could sell without selling, I'm not sure. You're either selling or you're not. But this kind of came around, we got almost embarrassed to be in sales, and the world took a bit of a turn. And then that morphed into the age of the buyer, because the buyer's got more choice than ever before. They don't just go down the road and use a friend or somebody they know. They tend to get at least 3 quotations. I was with a client a couple of weeks ago that was seeing 19 different suppliers for their telecoms requirements. So that's a bit different to years ago, because we compete with everybody in the world on the internet. It's not just a local deal anymore. So now I believe we're moving into the age of differentiation. And if we aren't able to differentiate from our competitors as salespeople, we have a massive problem. So it's the age of differentiation, the era of standout selling. How do we stand out from our competitors and win more business? The standout salesperson does a number of things slightly differently in the process that means that they win more business, they win it faster, and they win it at the price they want to charge, not necessarily the price the client is trying to beat them down to. So let me give you some ideas of what a standout salesperson would do to help win more business and do so at a higher price. So for me, the first key is relevancy. How relevant are you to the customers and the prospects that you're seeing on a daily basis? How relevant are you? Because people say, oh, yes, Andy, I'm relevant because I've asked them some good questions, I made a note of what they're looking for, the specification, and I'm going to put my proposal together based on those specifications. That's not going to cut it. Everybody who sends back a proposal is going to send a proposal back based on the specifications that the buyer has detailed. So you've not stood out, you're no different than anyone else. So now the buyer's going to play you off against each other, put pressure on your price, on your margins, and even if you do win the business, you win at a price where you're possibly just making money or you're covering costs. That's not a world that a standout salesperson lives in. So they want to be relevant to the person they meet. A friend of mine has a finance business in the UK, and he was telling about a salesperson who came in to see him a couple of weeks ago. And he said to me, Andy, I've got some more business for you. I thought, that's fantastic. I've done business with his teams before. We've got some good results. He said, no, a salesperson came in to see me. I don't see many people, but they were good on the phone. They got the appointment. They sat with me. Their first question was, tell me a little bit about your business. Now, 15 years ago, sales trainers trained that question. Quite a good question to get people talking. He said, my response was, there's the door. use it, and only come back when you know about my business, you understand my business, and you have something that's relevant to my business. Otherwise, I've no time for you. Off you go. Was that salesperson under a bit of pressure, guys? Yes or no? Absolutely. The world's changed and he hadn't evolved with it. We cannot be going to see decision makers face to face or even speak to them on the phone without knowing a bit about their business and how our product or service sits in that business and what it's going to do for them. The next key is immediacy. How quickly you respond, particularly to incoming inquiries. We're in the era of instant gratification now. We download films we can watch almost instantly. We can download music or stream music instantly whenever we want it. People want things straight away. If you take a day or two to respond to sales inquiries, they've probably bought off someone else. Sometimes usually the first person who calls them up gets to dictate, try and change their mind on what they want, perhaps get to shape the opportunity to favor themselves. If you're not first, you're last. And finally, activity. People say to me, Andy, I haven't got time to make any more sales calls. And I say, great. Could you make 5 more calls a day? The answer is usually no. So I say, great. If I gave you £1 million, so in South African money, that's like 16,000 rand, 432, 11.2, and 70. Would you make 5 more calls? Yes. So I said, so you don't have a time management problem, you have a prioritization problem. This is the era of differentiation. It's the era of standout selling. I hope to empower you and your sales teams at your conferences.